Okay, Jacob.
My name is Jacob Chemirs, Chemirs. I was born in a little town in the Kiev region. The name of the town is Belaya Tserkov, B-A-L-Y-A, T-S-E-R-K-O-V. I was 3 years old before when the war started, 1941. When the war started and the German forces crossed Soviet borders, and that's in spite of the peace agreement which was made between Hitler and Stalin. It was a 10-year peace agreement, and he broke the agreement. They crossed the border of the Soviet Union June 22, 1941. And right after they crossed the borders, they start bombing the major cities close to Kiev, and then Kiev was bombed. And July 3rd, our town of Belaya Tserkov was bombed heavily, and people were panicking badly, and everyone started running out of the city, not taking anything with them. The way they stood, they ran outside the city, and so did my parents, because they not only dropped bombs to ruin everything, they dropped fire bombs. Everything was on fire, and it was great panic. So my parents and my mother picked me up. I was only 3 years old, and my two sisters, we ran on the outskirts of city and hid in the bushes and behind the trees. Then when night came, everyone started walking toward trying to reach to a railroad station, but it was far, and so they start walking toward Dnieper River to get on a ship to get out of this region. And on our long way, it was a huge crowd of people running away. And we were walking. Of course, it was too hard for my mother, and together with us, her sister-in-law's family joined us, and we together were walking to toward east, running away, and we were walking the last in the line, the last in the crowd, because it was hard to walk and it was a long trek. And to our we were a little lucky when we were behind the whole line. A truck, a military truck, was going toward the city of Kiev, and the officer, it was a truck, luckily for us, and the officer had two soldiers, so the truck was empty, and we were 8 people, our family and my mother's sister-in-law's family. So they helped us to get in the truck, and they brought us to Kiev. Kiev is a port city on the river Dnieper.
Do you know how to spell that?
Kiev?
Yeah.
K-A-N-E-V.
Good.
And we were waiting for a ship or something. Then came a cargo ship, like a barge, a huge barge. And as many people they placed on the barge and took us to the city, a major city of Dnipropetrovsk, where we could go to a railroad station and get farther east. Then the train brought us to North Caucasus, to a town of Timashevka. And of course, they unloaded us, and we were waiting what to do next. Then we came a train, a cargo train, and we were taking to Andijan. That's Andijin. And from there, another train took us to Uzbekistan, where we stopped, and they put us into a collective farm, where I say my family, my sister was 13 years old, my older sister, and the other sister was 7 years old. But my mother and her sister-in-law, that's my aunt, they were working in the field, and of course they got paid not by money, but they received some food, meal, or their style of bread, like pita bread. And it was enough to support us somehow. And we stayed there for a while, and then in Uzbekistan we stayed till 1944. And after that, my parents and my aunt decided to get back to our hometown, to Belaya Tserkov.
Did you have some work to do while you were there?
Well, I was too little. I was only 3 years old, and
When your older sisters?
And the older sister was 14 years old by the time. She worked together with the adults, and the other sister didn't work. She was still small too.
Okay.
And well, we had to work in order to receive some food. And who couldn't work still received some food because, like, who was ill or not capable to work, they were still supported. And the room where we lived was the floor was earth, not wooden floor, but earthen floor, and it was covered with straw to make it a little warmer. And that's the way we had to live, and it was only one room for the whole family, for people, for 8 people. And that's the way we used to live till 1944.
Did you have extended family with you at that time?
No. My mother's brother was drafted to the army. He perished during the war. That's her sister-in-law's husband. And my father's family was drafted too to war, and they perished too. So when we came back to our hometown, to Belaya Tserkov, and my mother tried to find what happened. So it happened what happened to everyone who couldn't leave town. They were rounded up and taken to Babi Yar, where they all perished. And life after war was very hard. The industry was ruined, and was no work, and everyone did whatever they could in order to buy some food. And we had to live somewhere. My parents, our house was ruined. When we came back, nothing was left, only rocks. So we had to live like renting a corner, not a room, somewhere for start. And then my father used to do some shoe repair work, and whatever he could earn helped to buy food. And then my mother found some work in a store, and they had to save some money little by little to buy some little house or something. And for the money they saved, they were only able to buy a little house. It looked more like a barn, and it was still better than to be in somebody's place, to have a little corner and be crammed up. So little by little, my mother and my sisters, they fixed it the way they could. And the floor was, it was very damp. It was a bad house, but it was a house.
It was not a new house. It was.
And it was not a house. It looked more like a barn, and it was enough room to divide for the family, for girls and boys, to separate, and that's the way we lived until my mother could. My sister went to work right away. After divorce, she was working in a metal, metal working place. She did some process, like on a, she was making nails. And everything was important at that days, because nobody had anything. Who wanted to fix something, to repair, they needed material. So everything was important, and this metal making place was important. And who had a job was very happy. My father, till 1953, he was doing shoe repair again, and somehow they made end meet, like they could make some kind of a living. Poor, but it was enough. And then my younger sister, she was older than me, but younger than the older sister. She, after school, she went to a school to become a bookkeeper. And then she went to work to a shoe factory, and she was working there all her life, for 40 years. Of course, she got married and got her family. My older sister got married and got her family. And we were living all in the same little house. But my younger sister went to her husband's house, and it was already a little bit more space. And that's how we lived after the war. So it was not too simple until the economy picked up, and after the 7th grade, I finished school after 7th grade.
Did you have any, did you have any problems with the neighbors when you moved back to your hometown? Were the neighbors friendly? I often hear that some...
They were friendly, but unofficially we were still teased that we survived, that we didn't fight in the war, and that our fathers fought in Uzbekistan, in Tashkent. They were teasing us. They didn't want to hear that our fathers fought even better than their fathers, because they were heroes of the Soviet Union. And Sophia's father perished right in the beginning of the war. So, but officially from the government, all the the harassment came from the government, because the Jews were a minority, and we were not popular. that's why when an opportunity arrived, and we left for the United States, and most of the Jews took this opportunity to get a better life, and of course to remain what we are, to keep our identity.
Yes.
And but after the war.
Was your family religious when you were growing up, before the bad things happened?
Yes. When I was growing up, when I got married, my father died after a stroke. He died in 1953, and my mother in 1960. I was serving in the Soviet Army at that time, and they let me go home to participate, at least to see my mother. And but she died at 1960. And after that, I went to work and continue education after work. That was a night school.
Was there a synagogue in town?
But right after the war, it was a synagogue for a couple of years. Then they closed it up, because they didn't want any religion practice, not Jewish, not Christian, any religion they didn't want to have. So the synagogue was closed up, and of course the older Jewish people who knew religion were assembling in somebody's bigger room who had a house, and they were practicing quietly and privately.
Yes.
And but officially, religion was forbidden. And
just stepping back a bit, when you were growing up, did you, when you were going to school, when you started school again, did you notice anti-Semitism while you were in school?
Not very hard, but we were always picked. It was an infamous, in the passport, it was an infamous point, the 5th point. Like it was written the nationality. Everyone had a passport, like ID. And it was written who is who, Ukrainian, Russian, Jew. And of course, when they saw that it was a Jew, the preference was given to a Ukrainian if it was a vacancy for a job, or like somebody wanted to go to after school to get higher education, and they always picked their people to get through. And a Jewish young man or young girl, they were caught, even they knew better, they had more knowledge, they didn't let them go through. And but some even went outside, not in Kiev or not in Belaya Tserkov. They went far away to Siberia, to wherever it was possible to enter a university. They went there. And who wanted to have education, they did.
And they were accepted other places?
As they were accepted because there it was not enough students.
Oh, okay.
But in the major cities, like in Kiev, Moscow, or other cities, it was enough local population that wanted to enter the university. And so they they wanted to choose. And the Jewish young men who wanted to study, they found other ways to do it, and they did it.
That's wonderful.
And of course, they had better qualification than the others, because they were good doctors, good lawyers, and engineers, and even constructors, because they were working, they were chosen if the government found out that they are qualified and they could do something for the country. They were giving an opportunity, and they were working, and they proved that they are good. So, and that's how life was going on where we lived. And when we came to the United States, we saw a big difference right away, because like the Constitution, the American Constitution says, by the people and for the people, and everyone is equal, even when they came not being citizens, but naturalized citizens. If they worked and they showed loyalty, they worked and they paid taxes and everything according to the law. So we were happy that we are here.
What year was that?
That was, we left Kiev in 1976.
Oh.
Yes.
Do you have any idea what the population of Jewish people in Kiev was?
And Kiev at that time?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that it was maybe a 250,000. I'm not sure, because nobody told us the statistics we were covered. We didn't know. But as soon as the opportunity appeared, it was the possibility to live. I don't know, it was some kind of agreement between the governments of United States and the Soviet Union. That was, at the time, was Brezhnev. And it was, I don't remember, 2 senators had a part in it. They worked to make the immigration easier for the Jewish people. And whoever wanted to live, the opportunity was there. And they gave visas, and we left. So we came with 2 little children in order for them to have an opportunity to become someone in this new country. And we always remember with Sophia that the song, by the way, it was written by Irving Berlin, the song God Bless America, fits in right to the point. And we were happy about this. And we always say that this, God bless America.
Yeah. And you were married at that time.
Yes. We were married at 1967.
In Kiev?
In Kiev, yes. And again, when we saw the opportunity to live, of course, Sophia's mother, if she would still be alive, she was very sick. It would be harder to leave Kiev. But she passed away 2 years before, in 1965. So we decided we have to leave.
And she passed away in 75.
Yes, she passed away in 1975, and in 1976 we left. So yes, and we came to United States in 1978.
77.
Excuse me, in 1977, because we left 1976. Yes, yes. We stayed in Rome for 3 months. The transition papers and all this had to be worked out. And then we came to New York.
So how many in the family did come to New York with you?
4 of us. We had 2 children by the time.
Okay.
Our daughter and our son. And life started from the beginning.
Where did you land in America?
New York.
New York.
Yes, New York. And right away I had no English language whatsoever. I studied in school, I studied German. So all I knew is the Latin alphabet. But the pronunciation of English and German is different. But Sophia helped, and I was studying with a dictionary and reading small books, and little by little I picked it up. And then I had the opportunity, when I had little less or more my English, I found a job in New York hospital. And that was a major step forward. And Sophia found a job in another place, in a school where she graduated from.
Did you go to school to help with your learning English?
No, I studied it.
Yes, we went a little, yes.
That was a private. No, that was a teacher, English. She was Russian. She was Jewish from Russia, and she was volunteering to teach whoever wants to know English. It was a group, and that helped too.
That's good.
So little by little, with a little patience, with a dictionary and a little practice, I picked up English, and then I started to read English books, and that helped a lot. That improved my gave me a lot. My vocabulary enlarged. I knew more words, and then when I heard somebody pronouncing it, I recall, and I knew what the word means, and little by little I picked up the language, and that helped a lot to find a job. Especially, it was an interesting point when I was looking for a job, and the abbreviations in the newspapers and to look for a job, they abbreviated it, and I had to decode it. That helped a lot too. That gave my brain a little work that I could. It was practice, and of course a lot helped. It was a long way to work. We lived in Far Rockaway in Queens, far away from and the work. The New York hospital was in Manhattan, so it was an hour drive in a train, get to work. So I used the time to read books.
Good for you.
and that's how I improved my English, and little by little. And then it helped a lot that I was working with English-speaking people, because a lot of Russian people, a lot of Russian Jewish people, they worked in a Russian environment. They didn't have any practice, and that didn't help. But when you work and you practice, you speak all day, and then at night we were watching TV. It was more and more practice, and that's how we went. What did I start with? With our survival of the Holocaust. If thanks to my parents, we escaped when the German forces entered Kiev and the surrounding towns. The first thing they did is they were searching for the Jewish people. So we escaped just in time. And we escaped because before this, a lot of refugees from Poland who ran away and knew what's going on, they were telling stories what the Nazis did to the Jews. So everyone was aware what's awaiting, and that's why everyone was eager to escape, left all possessions, whatever we had on our shoulders, that was ours. And then we had to start all over again. And we survived.
Everybody heard about Babi Yar.
Everyone knew Babi Yar. But at the time when we left, we didn't know Babi Yar yet.
Oh.
At that time, they didn't publicize that they are taking. They were telling that the Jews whom they marching to Babi Yar, they said that they were taking them to a safer place, and people believed, and they were eager to go. That was a trick.
Yeah.
But when we lived, before the war started, we didn't know anything about the Yar or any concentration camps until the Poland Jews, Jews from Poland, knew already what's going on, and that's why they escaped. And what's interesting that Stalin led them into the Soviet Union, and of course, what was awaiting them if after the war, nobody knew, because Stalin had his own plans for this. But the first thing he had to fight the war and win. And of course, if it wouldn't be the help from United States and from Britain, it was a coalition. So that's how it helped them to win the war, because United States supplied a lot of ammunition and trucks and whatever was needed, and even food, and that helped. But Russia is a very large territory, and they had a great potential, because in the middle of the war, from Siberia came real trained soldiers who were prepared to fight the war, and a lot of
Russian soldiers.
Russian soldiers, right? Because a lot of soldiers perished in the beginning of the war. The Soviet army was not prepared because of the peace agreement.
Right.
And nobody was aware that the war could start. Of course, it was a clue that he captured all Europe. Hitler, he captured so fast that nobody paid attention. I don't know why, but probably Stalin knew about it. But he was relying on the peace agreement, and and Hitler tricked him real good. Nobody expected war at that time.
And Hitler came close to Stalingrad.
And Hitler came close to Stalingrad, and when this was announced on the radio, everyone was afraid what will happen. Stalingrad will fall, Leningrad, and Moscow. So then it would be the loss of war. But luckily, the Soviet army, I don't know how it was, but they stopped Hitler at Stalingrad, and that was the breaking point.
I think a lot had to do with the time of year in the winter.
Oh, and in the winter, that was a great help, because the winter in that part of Russia, in Stalingrad, it was a bitter winter, and they were not prepared. They thought they will walk through like through Europe.
Yes.
Blitzkrieg. And it didn't happen. So they were freezing to death, and the Russians were more used to that winter. So they pushed back, and then that was the breaking point, and they were starting to win more battles and more. And then the second front, the Allies joined, and what was it, in 1943 or in 1944?
They started in 43, I think.
In 43. That was great help, because Hitler had to cut his forces to fight another front.
Yes.
And that was a great help, because otherwise it would be hard for the Russian army to win the war. Even it was a great territory and a lot of people supplied, because from the regions where the war didn't reach yet, they were drafting even younger people than 18 years, and they trained them, and they were ready for war. But when the second front opened, that changed everything, and then the war started moving toward Europe, and little by little, by the end of 1944, it was fight for Germany already, and for Berlin. And then the world knew that Hitler won't win the war, and that was a blessing.
It was a blessing, but it was strange that Hitler continued to concentrate on murdering Jews.
Murdering Jews, he didn't stop.
He didn't stop. Even though he knew he was losing the war, he wanted to kill as many Jews as possible.
That's hard to understand.
That is.
Because to put on a conveyor to murder people who, when he was young, Jewish people helped him even when he was in need. But he didn't count this. Something went on in his brain that he has to kill. And that's hard to understand.
And many Ukrainians and others helped him, still help him.
Yes, yes.
Even to the very end.
But many Ukrainians helped the Jewish people too.
Yes.
They were hiding them, and they were helping.
And they risked their lives to hide them.
Yes.
Wow.
Not all of them, but a lot of them did. And so did in Europe, in other countries. They tried to help Jews because they thought it's not right. They used to live with them like neighbors and helping each other. And here, these atrocities, that was hard to get, to understand how could people become so vicious, so horrible to other people.
Yeah, at one time they were neighbors, and then
they became enemies.
Killers. Yes.
Yes, and that's another story. That
is another story.
Because we thought that Germany, the Germans, were a civilized nation, but in a year or two, Hitler turned their mind upside down, and they became killers. And that's, I don't know if they realized that after the war, I don't know if they realize it, all of them right now too, because they always tried to capture the world, but who didn't at that time? And that's how we survived, and we are happy to be here, and God bless America.
So tell me a little bit about, four of you in your family, you and your wife and your two children, came to America in 1977. 1977. And you arrived in New York. And from New York, you stayed in New York.
We stayed in New York for 4.5 years.
And you worked? What kind of work did you do?
And I did... I worked as an electrician in New York hospital.
Were you trained to be an electrician?
I was trained to be an electrician in Russia, but it was...
So you had some background?
Yes, I had my background, and it was a very nice supervisor in that hospital. He was a Czech. And when he heard that I'm from Ukraine, he spoke even a few words with me in Russian and Ukrainian, and that was surprising. And then, of course, he hired me, and I started to work, and that was a great help for us.
And that was about 4 years?
Yes. And, well, then...
was Sophia working? Well, she was her mommy at that time.
She was a mommy, but she was working too.
I went to work right away. First of all, I went to school. I
Yeah.
graduated from clerical business school.
You should sit here and I could hear your voice.
Yeah, she went to a clerical school.
Sophia, pull this red chair. Pull that out and come over here. So tell me the rest of the family. I mean, there was just your mom, your mother, father, sisters.
Okay. Yes.
Where were they when you came to America? 1977?
Okay, I'll start. I'll go back then, where I started.
I'd like to back up a little.
Yes. My parents were born in the beginning of the 20th century. And they were still young when the Russian Revolution started, 1917. And when the revolution started, that turmoil was very hard on them. Yes,
You can start again.
Yes.
You asked him about the family after
Yes, the
we
family.
left the Soviet Union.
Yes.
no, but you wanted to know about my parents,
Yes.
where they were.
Yes.
So I'll start.
Yes.
I'll back up even a little
Please
farther.
do. Please do.
And my mother and my father, they were born in the beginning of the 20th century, somewhere in 1903, and they lived in little towns. At that time it was called shtetls. Well, my mother was born in a little town called Techiyev, and my
You know
father,
how to spell that? That town?
Techiyev is T-E-T-I-T-I-V. And my father was born in another town called Skvira, S-K-Y-I-R-A.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, sit like that. Okay.
Yes.
So go ahead.
When we left for America, they were already not with us. My father passed away in 1953, and my mother in 1960.
Okay.
And at the time when my mother passed away, I was serving in the Soviet Army, and they let me come home to say, because my mother was very ill, and I came for a week home, and she was still alive, and when I saw her, but she died, and right when I was there, she passed away. So our parents were not with us when we emigrated. It would be real nice if they would see, Sophia and I were talking sometimes, if they would see that how they lived in younger years and how we live. Even you have to work, and it's good that you have a job and you work. We live much better than our parents lived in their younger years. So we came to the United States in 1977, and of course children went to school, and we were working.
Where were your sisters?
And my sisters were still back in Belaya Tserkov.
Did they ever come here?
And that's what I wanted to say. My older sister and her family, after we lived for 25 years,
No.
less. No, they are
They
here.
came 20 years ago. His sister,
Yeah, my older sister.
and her daughter's family came 20 years ago. So we're in America now 34 years. So after 14 years, we were alone in United States. And 14 years later, his family came in. And then 2 years later, my family came in.
Where did they live when they came here?
When they rented an apartment and lived in an apartment.
In Arizona?
In Arizona, yes.
Oh,
In
okay.
Phoenix.
In
Yes.
Phoenix.
And
Well,
they still here.
Oh,
They
good.
still live here. Now they're in Chandler.
Oh, okay.
that's the reason they came here, because we sent them an invitation, and they received visas to come,
Okay.
because it
invited
was
them
a relative thing, because we have like sister and brother. They were allowed to come to join family,
Close family.
close family, And so we have family,
Like they
Nice.
called it immediate family.
immediate family,
Immediate
yes.
family. Sisters and brothers were allowed.
Yes, and so is Sophia's aunt.
My mother's sister also came with daughter's family. And
So Jacob's family came here, and also Sophia's family.
And Sophia's
Yes,
family
yes.
came, yes.
and our family is
nice.
still in the valley, still
Yes.
in Phoenix.
Yes,
That's
my sister is,
wonderful.
but my younger sister,
She never made it.
She never made it,
She
no.
was.
she was sick and
She
she
couldn't. She couldn't live.
so she passed away 2 years ago.
But she was married and had children?
Yes,
yes,
yes.
she
Her
had
daughter
children.
still lives in Bela Tserkov in our hometown.
How
And
old would she be?
We
your daughter?
we speak on Skype often with
yeah,
his niece. She's still in Bela Tserkov, and we speak often.
yeah, we communicate.
And her husband?
No, she's not married,
married.
unfortunately not. And but she says she's happy there. So let
That's
her be
good.
happy wherever she is,
Yeah.
as long as it's peace and it's
So-
quiet in the world.
So his younger sister passed away, and his older sister
Yeah,
lives with her daughter
Here.
here.
here in Chandler.
Yes.
With
And,
daughter's family.
Does she belong to the JCC in Chandler? Jewish Community Center?
No.
No.
They're pretty active in Chandler.
Yeah, they are active, but she is his sister is in a condition.
She
She's
cannot
almost
walk. She's-
bedridden.
Okay.
Yeah, and
She is not in a good health.
well, she studied English by herself. She can read. She understands the on TV. She understands everything. She can read, and she can communicate too.
And her
She's
children?
She's 11 years older than Jacob.
Yeah, and her children, there,
Yes.
her children, her son is in Israel, and her daughter is here. She's taking care of her, and we visit them very often because she lives in Chandler, and so they visit us when they can, and most of all we come to visit them
And Denise's son with the family lives near us.
near us.
So
we
it's
visit them.
convenient.
Yeah.
We all see each other on Saturdays.
That's nice.
And niece's son has two beautiful babies.
Yeah.
And since we don't have grandchildren, they're
Yes.
happy to play with the babies.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
So the
And,
extended family, what's the story of the extended family? They're all gone?
Extended.
Extended family of Jacob's extended family and Sophia's extended family.
Jacob's extended family
That's all I have.
His father passed away.
Well, your
His mother
your
passed-
father's family, your father's
My father's family I never knew,
Okay.
and
Your
his
mother's
But
family?
mother's family, they came to United States also.
yes,
It's
my mother's
Brother's
sister-in-law, her brother's family.
Okay.
He was drafted and he perished in the war, but
Perished means murdered,
yes.
right?
No, people who
he fought in the.
Some died of
perished.
starvation or
No,
what?
no. People who were drafted to the army,
to war.
who were with the Soviet army fighting in a war.
We didn't
They
know the
perished.
details because nobody knew what's going on. But he was drafted and never came back. So we assumed that he
died.
perished.
Yeah.
Same with my father.
Same with Sophia's
He went
father.
when I was 2 years old, and I never saw him again.
But
And
this
it's all in my story.
that's the extended family. My mother's sister-in-law, and my mother's sister-in-law came with her family to the United States, and she lived for a while, but she was very, very ill.
She lived for about a year and a half,
Yes.
about 2 years, and she
And,
passed away.
But
Her son with the family.
her son and her daughter, who still lives in Baltimore, and we communicate or on the Skype or on the telephone.
Oh, that's nice.
So, and that's the extended families. Now I figured out that's the extended family which lives in Baltimore, and
His family.
the close family is my sister's family. So
They all here.
all here, and we are happy to have them.
And my two cousins here.
Yes, and two cousins.
I invited
In
my
Phoenix.
aunt and uncle with their children, with their daughter, and the daughter had her daughter. So I invited them about 17 years ago. And
And they came.
they're still here.
Yes, they did.
My uncle and my aunt passed away both,
Yeah,
but their
Her
daughter,
children are
my
here.
cousin,
two cousins.
first came my cousin
yeah.
Anna, and she's still here, and her daughter with the husband and a son also here in Phoenix. And after 2 years later, she invited her brother, my
Second cousin.
second cousin from on my mother's side. Yes, and on my father's side, I have two cousins in Los Angeles.
So you have
Two first cousins in Los Angeles.
You keep in touch with them.
Yes, we keep in touch.
That's nice.
Also telephone and Skype.
Say Skype. That's a telephone
This is
system.
TV.
I've not used that.
Or you
Just-
don't use it?
No.
That's a miracle.
It's wonderful. It's a miracle.
Skype.
You speak.
You speak and you see.
You see.
You see each other
Yes.
Oh.
you
on a
see each
computer.
other.
On a computer.
Oh boy.
Well, we have
you're
something
a
called
little-
iChat. iChat, and I see when my son calls from Minnesota.
But
we
it's
can
on
see-
a telephone.
It's
right?
on the computer.
On a computer, I
Yeah.
chat.
Oh,
We
It's
know
called
this
iChat.
Skype.
So Skype is what? I
Skype
have heard
is-
of it. I've heard of
Yeah,
Skype.
it's a little camera which you place on your
On the top of the screen of the computer, you place a
On your
little camera
terminal.
and you connect it. There is a connection in the
connection
computer.
with the computer.
And you see each other and you speak like on
You
the,
go
on
on
the phone.
Skype and you speak like you're in the next room.
Yes,
Isn't
You
that-
see each other
that's
and you
wonderful.
see the wall and you see surroundings.
that's
And you
a
speak-
miracle.
You've been doing that for how long? Skype.
For a year,
No. We're doing this for about 3 years.
I don't
wow.
know. Well, yeah, for a while.
Yeah.
I don't
Since
remember.
it
My
came
memory is.
out, yeah.
But that doesn't
His
matter.
memory a little bit.
It's a
He's
very
doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Very good.
so. Life is good.
Okay, so let's just back up. So you were in New York about 4 years, and you were working.
Yes.
in
In
Sophia.
New York.
Yeah, we were
Senior
working.
grade.
Children were in school.
Your
But
kids-
what happened? Our son couldn't stand that climate. He started to develop asthma. He was coughing.
my
He was
wife.
sick.
Yes.
And the
Doctor
ENT
recommended
doctor,
to-
ENT doctor suggested you need dry climate.
To go
Where
to
is dry
Arizona.
climate? Arizona.
So you went from New York to
From
Arizona.
New
To
York
Arizona.
straight to Arizona.
And
in the
then-
middle of the winter.
Yeah.
Because he was coughing all
Coughing
night.
all night,
And we couldn't
yes.
sleep all night.
And that
and then
saved
we
him.
had to
Yeah.
get up at 6 o'clock and go to work without sleeping all night.
Yeah,
It
it's-
was horrible.
Oh,
So we listened to a good doctor and we just bought tickets on a
Yeah.
flight
Of
tickets.
course, that was
and we
another
came to
immigration
Arizona.
because
It
it
was-
had to
we
pick
left
up
You had to
everything.
move everything. You had to move.
Everything.
No,
yeah.
we
but,
did
but
not.
not
we
everything.
just left everything we owned. In 4 years, we gave it away to
Yeah.
neighbors.
Well, only the most important necessities we picked up. We
Only our
packaged
clothing.
it in
Yes.
boxes
And you shipped it to
and shipped it. Yes.
Phoenix.
No, we did not ship anything. We
Ah.
took only what we could
In the
take on a
baggage.
plane.
Yeah, in the baggage. In the
Oh, in
plane.
other words, you didn't
brought
ship anything?
in
No, we
nothing.
didn't ship. No.
We only brought what we could take with us on a plane.
Wow.
Because people explain that to ship furniture or household items, it's expensive. And you can buy for this money you spend on shipping, You can buy
Buy
when you
new
come
ones,
here.
yes.
That's what we did. We came with nothing
You didn't
except
bring
of
your
our
television
clothing.
set or anything.
Nothing.
No.
We
That's
brought
no.
nothing. Only
We
clothing.
started from the beginning.
It's a wonderful story.
But our son started to feel much better as soon as we arrived, because he started breathing better.
Yeah.
And
How's he doing now?
now,
After he spent 4 years in the Navy on a ship
Oh,
in the open ocean,
yes.
he was wonderful.
But
This-
now in Arizona,
Did him good.
he doesn't feel too good when
When
he
he
comes.
comes to visit to Arizona, he doesn't feel good because of allergies. He developed
Oh.
different kinds of allergies in Arizona. And sometimes he has these allergies in California. He lives in California for many years.
we moved to Arizona because my wife's doctor said if you want your wife to feel better, the Chicago weather is not good.
Not
She has
good.
asthma. Get her in a warmer, drier
Yes,
climate.
and also
Same
story.
thing.
in New
Same
York,
story.
the same
That
thing.
sounds familiar.
Yes.
Same story.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think you guys did great. I think that you
Yeah.
brought us up right up to date.
We love it here in Arizona.
Yes, we
I'll
tried.
tell you, talk 56 minutes.